Have you ever noticed a strange irony in the world? The people who know the least are often the ones who speak the loudest. They walk into a room with absolute certainty, convinced they are the smartest, the most capable, the most right, while the people with genuine expertise, the ones who actually understand the complexity of the problem, are often the ones hesitating, second-guessing, remaining quiet. This isn't just a personality quirk. It is a psychological glitch deeply embedded in the human brain. It has a name, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Identified by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999, it describes a cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. In simple terms, stupid people are too stupid to know they are stupid. But it goes deeper than that. It isn't just about intelligence, it is about awareness. The incompetent lack the very skills needed to recognize their own incompetence, and that ignorance becomes the fuel for their unshakable confidence. This phenomenon shapes our world in terrifying ways. It decides who gets promoted. It decides who wins elections. It governs the arguments you see online every single day. We live in a culture that worships confidence. We mistake loudness for leadership. We mistake certainty for truth. And because of this, we are constantly being led by people who have no idea where they are going. But why does this happen? Why is the human mind wired to deceive itself? It begins with a primal desire, the desire to matter. We all want to believe we are competent, intelligent, respected. But true competence is hard. It requires years of failure, effort, and humility. Ignorance, on the other hand, is easy. It offers the comfort of simplicity, the illusion that the world is easy to understand. And for many, that illusion is more seductive than the messy, complicated truth. Think of a beginner playing chess for the first time. They learn how the pieces move, they win a game against another beginner, and suddenly they think they are a prodigy. They feel like a master because they haven't yet seen the depth of the game. They don't know about opening theory, mid-game tactics, or end-game nuances. Their map of the world is so small that they think they have explored the whole territory. This is the essence of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You don't know what you don't know, and because you don't know it, you assume it doesn't exist. You look at a complex problem and think, that looks easy, I could do that. Not because you are capable, but because your ignorance blinds you to the difficulty. Real experts have the opposite problem. They possess what psychologists call metacognition, the ability to think about their own thinking. They can step outside themselves and assess their own performance. They know how much they don't know. They are painfully aware of the gaps in their knowledge. And that awareness creates doubt. It creates hesitation. So while the novice is shouting their opinion from the rooftops, the expert is quietly whispering, "It depends." Dunning and Kruger proved this in their studies. They gave participants tests on logic, grammar, and humor. The people who scored in the bottom 25% consistently rated themselves as above average. They were failing, but they thought they were succeeding. Meanwhile, the top performers underestimated themselves. They assumed because the test was easy for them, it must be easy for everyone else. This creates a dangerous dynamic in society. The incompetent are confident, and the competent are full of doubt. And in a world that rewards certainty, guess who we listen to? We see this play out in classrooms and offices every day. Teachers see it in the student who refuses to study because they think they already know the material. Managers see it in the junior employee who thinks they can run the department better than the CEO. It is the curse of the beginner. A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing because it gives you just enough confidence to be wrong loudly. In the workplace, this can be toxic. Imagine a team meeting. You have a quiet expert who has spent 20 years solving this exact problem, and you have a loud novice who read one article about it yesterday. The novice speaks first, with absolute conviction. They offer a simple solution to a complex problem. The room nods. Simplicity feels good. Certainty feels safe. The expert tries to interject to explain why that solution won't work, but they sound cautious, they sound negative. So the room ignores the expert and follows the novice. And 6 months later, when the project fails, everyone wonders what went wrong. This is how incompetence climbs the corporate ladder. We promote people based on their confidence, not their capability. Charisma masquerades as competence, and because the incompetent lack self-awareness, they never learn from their mistakes. They blame the team, the market, the tools, anything but themselves, because to admit they were wrong would shatter the illusion of their own greatness, and their ego cannot survive that. Even leaders are not immune. A CEO who overestimates their strategic vision makes reckless bets. A hiring manager who thinks they are a flawless judge of character hires the wrong people. When the person at the top has a blind spot, it ripples down through the entire organization. If the boss never says, "I don't know," then the employees learn that certainty is more important than truth, and the culture becomes a breeding ground for delusion. The only way out is intellectual humility. It is the willingness to say, "I might be wrong." It is the recognition that no matter how much you know, the universe of what you don't know is infinitely larger. Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, was considered the wisest man in Athens, not because he knew everything, but because he claimed to know nothing. He understood the limits of his own mind, and that understanding made him smarter than everyone else. Modern psychology backs this up. Intellectual humility is the key to growth. People who can admit their ignorance learn faster. They update their beliefs when new evidence appears. They are not attached to being right. They are attached to finding the truth, and those are two very different goals. Think of economist Russ Roberts, who spent years defending a theory about the financial crisis, only to realize later that he was wrong. Instead of doubling down, he publicly admitted his mistake. He said, "I became deeply aware of my ignorance." That admission didn't make him weaker, it made him credible. It showed that he valued reality over his own ego. Building this humility requires a growth mindset, the belief that your intelligence is not fixed, but fluid. In a fixed mindset, being wrong feels like a character flaw. It feels like shame. But in a growth mindset, being wrong is just feedback. It is data. It is how you calibrate your understanding of the world. You have to fall in love with the process of being corrected. You have to seek out people who disagree with you, not to fight them, but to learn from them. So, how do we practice this in real life? How do we puncture our own bubble of false confidence? First, you need honest feedback. You need people in your life who are willing to tell you the truth even when it hurts. You need mentors who can show you what real expertise looks like, so you can see the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Second, you need to test your predictions. Before you start a project, write down what you think will happen. Then, after it's over, look at what actually happened. This forces you to confront reality. It prevents your brain from rewriting history to make you look smarter than you were. Embrace failure as a teacher. Do a post-mortem on your mistakes. Don't hide them, dissect them. Find out exactly where your knowledge ended and your assumption began. Third, practice perspective taking. Try to explain a concept back to an expert. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. If their argument goes over your head, don't dismiss it. Take it as a sign that you have more to learn. In meetings, give the floor to the quietest person. Ask them what they think. Often the person listening has seen things the person talking has missed. Organizations need to build cultures where "I don't know" is an acceptable answer, where asking for help is seen as strength, not weakness, where the goal is not to be the smartest person in the room, but to make the room smarter. When we lower the stakes of being wrong, we raise the standard of truth. The journey from ignorance to expertise is not a straight line, it is a curve. You start at the peak of Mount Stupid, where your confidence is high but your skill is low. Then, as you learn more, you fall into the Valley of Despair, This is where you realize how much you don't know. Your confidence crashes. You feel like an imposter. You feel like giving up. But this valley is necessary. It is the fire that burns away the arrogance. It is where true learning happens. If you keep going, if you keep studying, practicing, and reflecting, you start to climb the slope of enlightenment. Your skill increases and your confidence returns. But this time, it is real confidence. It is earned confidence. It is confidence rooted in experience, not delusion. We need to normalize this struggle. We need to tell people that feeling stupid is part of getting smart, that doubt is a sign of progress, that the discomfort of uncertainty is the growing pains of wisdom. If you never doubt yourself, you are not learning. You are just reinforcing your own bias. In society, we need to value thoughtfulness over volume. We need to stop rewarding the hot take and start rewarding the deep dive. We need to ask our leaders, what would it take to change your mind? If they can't answer that, they aren't leaders, they're ideologues. Social media platforms could help us by nudging us to pause before we post, asking us if we have checked our facts, reminding us that the world is more complex than a tweet. Ultimately, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a mirror. It reflects our own limitations back at us. It reminds us that we are human, flawed, and finite. But it is also an invitation to be curious, to be humble, to be open. The moment you stop questioning yourself is the moment you stop growing. The moment you think you have arrived is the moment you get lost. Intelligence isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about asking better questions. It's about being comfortable in the gray areas. It's about holding two opposing ideas in your mind at the same time. So the next time you feel absolutely certain about something, pause. Ask yourself, how do I know this? What if I'm wrong? Who disagrees with me and why? That pause is the sound of intelligence working. That hesitation is the mark of a disciplined mind. Don't strive for the loud, brittle confidence of the amateur. Strive for the quiet, resilient confidence of the master. The master knows that knowledge is not a destination, it is a horizon. You can walk towards it forever, but you will never reach the end. And that is the beauty of it. There is always more to discover. There is always more to learn. The Dunning-Kruger effect teaches us that confidence should be earned, not assumed, that true strength lies in admitting weakness, and that the smartest person in the room is usually the one who is listening. So listen more, speak less, and never be afraid to say, I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out.